Imagine a world where the Cold War never ended. A world where the superpowers never turned their backs on one another. Where the Iron Curtain never fell. Where we're still divided, east and west. What would life be like? What would history look like? And more importantly, what would our future hold? Stay with me as we uncover the chilling truths, the untold possibilities, and the terrifying consequences of a world forever divided. Point 1. The global order stays frozen in time. If the Cold War had never ended, the global order would have stayed frozen in time. A perpetual standoff. On one side, the democratic capitalist ideals of the United States and its allies. On the other, the authoritarian communist bloc led by the Soviet Union. This balance of power would shape every decision, every conflict, and every diplomatic negotiation. But there's a secret here. Did you know that the world's economy today is built on the assumption that this divide no longer exists? If the Cold War had continued, we might have never seen the rise of the global economy as we know it. Imagine a world without the global internet, where access to information is tightly controlled by state authorities. Could you imagine the consequences of having two global superpowers, each pulling the world in different directions, never allowing for peace, but also never letting conflict escalate into full-scale war? What if I told you that in this world, the very tools we take for granted, like travel, global commerce, and open communication, might be nothing more than distant dreams? Point number 2. The risk of nuclear war never eases. Now, let's talk about the most dangerous part. The nuclear arms race. The Cold War was never just a battle of ideologies. It was a race to build the most terrifying weapons ever known to mankind. And if that race had never ended, the world would have lived under the shadow of constant nuclear threat. Nuclear war, while terrifyingly close, might never have happened. But imagine a world where it was always one misstep away. The Cuban Missile Crisis. A world where every minor military skirmish could ignite a nuclear war that could wipe out entire cities in a blink. And it wasn't just the US and the USSR involved. China, Britain, France, all the major powers would still be in a race to develop ever deadlier weapons, expanding the risk of an all-out catastrophe. Can you even begin to grasp the pressure? But there's more. The secretive programs and covert operations the superpowers might have continued to develop. You won't believe the hidden dangers that we were almost never meant to know. Point number 3. A world of proxy wars and espionage. If the Cold War never ended, the proxy wars, the shadow conflicts, would continue. These wars, fought in secret in places like Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Korea, would have continued to ravage countries far from the battlegrounds of Washington and Moscow. The US would continue its efforts to spread democracy, while the Soviet Union would try to push its communist ideology across the globe. But here's the chilling truth. These proxy wars would not just be in remote corners of the world. They'd hit closer to home than you can imagine. The US might be fighting for control in Latin America, while the Soviet Union might extend its grip in Africa and Asia. Every conflict would be about more than just borders. It would be about the very soul of nations. And what if these conflicts were fought using us, ordinary citizens, caught in the crossfire of ideologies? Let me ask you, what if right now we are living through a new wave of proxy wars? What if you're already part of the quiet battle for global influence, and you don't even know it? Number 4. Technological race and the space race. Continues remember the space race? It was more than just putting a man on the moon. It was about dominance. In a world where the Cold War never ended, the race for technological superiority would escalate to dangerous levels. The US and the Soviet Union would fight not only in space, but also in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, biotechnology, everything. What would the world look like today if our technological advancements had been driven by military rivalry? Would we have advanced faster? Or would the fear of nuclear war and sabotage have slowed us down? Here's something you've never considered. What if the technology we rely on today was created for war, not peace? Would we have the internet as we know it? Would satellites just be for weather or something far more secretive? A world divided might have led us to unimaginable technological breakthroughs or disasters. But here's the real question. Would our global society even survive? Could we live in a world where technology is controlled by competing superpowers, always on the edge of destruction? Number 5. The future of democracy and authoritarianism. Finally, let's ask ourselves this. What would democracy look like in a world where the Cold War never ended? The Soviet Union didn't just fight for global power, it fought to spread authoritarianism, and in the Cold War, the US was the last line of defense against this dark tide. But without the end of the Cold War, how long would democracy have survived? Would today's global freedom movements be crushed by authoritarian regimes? Or would the push for democracy keep growing in secret, led by underground movements? Imagine a world where your voice doesn't matter, where every election is controlled by hidden forces, where free speech is a crime, and where governments keep watching you, always. In this world, would there even be a place for people like us, searching for the truth? Here's the unsettling reality. The line between freedom and control could be thinner than we think. And if this was true, could we be in danger right now? Or is it already too late? A world divided by an endless Cold War would have shaped every facet of our lives, from the way we live, to the way we think, to the very technology we use. We would be living in a reality crafted by two titanic powers, locked in an eternal struggle. But there's one last question. What would this mean for our future? Would humanity have ever found peace, or would we be forever on the brink of war? The Cold War may have ended, but what if it never should have? What happens next could be the most chilling secret of all. If you want to dive deeper into hidden histories and the truths we were never meant to uncover, subscribe. The world isn't what you think it is.